You've probably filled up your tank 100 times. You watch that number climb on the little screen, you glance at the price on the sign as you pull in, and then you never think about it again until the next time you're running low. But that number on the sign isn't actually one price. It's 4 completely different costs stacked on top of each other, coming from 4 completely different places, and almost none of them have anything to do with the gas station itself. Let's walk through the whole thing, start to finish. It starts underground, sometimes thousands of feet down, sometimes miles beneath the ocean floor. Crude oil gets pumped out of the earth by a drilling well or an offshore rig, and the moment it comes up, it instantly becomes a global commodity. Bought and sold on international markets the same way stocks get traded, its price moving by the minute based on worldwide supply and demand, wars, weather, and shipping routes happening on the other side of the planet. That crude oil doesn't just drive straight to a refinery down the road. It moves through massive underground pipelines or gets loaded onto enormous tanker ships, sometimes traveling thousands of miles before it ever reaches a refinery gate. Crude oil alone makes up roughly half of what you eventually pay at the pump. The single biggest piece of the entire price, and the one part of it that has almost nothing to do with anything happening in your own country. Once it finally reaches a refinery, the crude oil gets heated, chemically separated, and processed into usable fuel. This is the exact stage where raw oil actually becomes gasoline. Refineries are enormous, expensive, and genuinely complicated to run around the clock, and that cost, plus the refinery's own built-in profit margin, adds roughly another fifth of the final price. Combined, crude oil and refining already account for about 70% of what you'll eventually pay before the gasoline has even physically left the building. Here's something that genuinely surprises a lot of people. Once gasoline leaves the refinery, it doesn't travel to your specific gas station in a branded tanker truck with a logo on the side. It moves through shared pipelines, the exact same pipelines multiple competing oil companies use at the same time, and the gasoline from different brands actually gets mixed together as it physically travels. It's called batching, and at that stage, gasoline is essentially unbranded. One company's gas is functionally identical to another's while it's moving through that shared pipe underground. The branding only happens later, at large regional storage terminals scattered around the country. This is where each company's specific additive package gets blended in. The detergents and chemical formulas that let one brand legally call itself different from another, even though the base gasoline underneath came from the exact same shared pipeline system just hours earlier. From that terminal, tanker trucks load up and deliver gasoline directly to individual gas stations nearby, topping off the enormous underground storage tanks buried beneath the pumps you're standing at. This entire stage, moving gasoline from refinery to terminal to your local station, plus the actual cost of running that station, the real estate, the labor, the lighting, the pumps, and canopy themselves, makes up roughly another tenth of the final price. And here's the part that surprises people even more. Gas stations typically earn a razor-thin profit margin on the fuel itself. Many stations make only a few cents per gallon after covering all their costs. The real money for most gas station owners comes from what's sitting inside the convenience store, not from what's flowing out of the pump nozzle. So at this point, you've got the cost of the crude oil, the cost of refining it, and the cost of getting it to the station and physically pumping it, roughly 80% of the final price, and the government hasn't touched a single cent of it yet. One more piece happens right at the station itself, and it's the part most people assume is arbitrary, but actually isn't. Station owners typically check their wholesale cost and their competitors' prices multiple times a day, sometimes several times within a single afternoon, and adjust the number on their sign accordingly. That's why you'll sometimes see the price at one station change twice before lunch, or why two stations across the street from each other stay locked within a penny of one another for weeks. It isn't random. It's a constant, almost automatic reaction to what the station down the road is charging and what the truck delivering their next batch of fuel is going to cost them. Now the taxes finally get layered on top. The federal government adds an excise tax of about 18.3 cents to every single gallon sold anywhere in the country, no matter which state you're standing in. On top of that, your state adds its own separate tax, and this is where it varies wildly from place to place. Some states add under 10 cents a gallon. California adds well over 68 cents. On average nationwide, combined federal and state taxes add up to roughly 51 cents per gallon, which usually works out to somewhere around 18% of the total price you're paying at the pump. And that four-part total, crude oil, refining, distribution, and taxes, is exactly what gets combined into that single glowing number on the sign as you pull in to fill up. Nationally, that split typically lands around 51% crude oil, 20% refining, 11% distribution and station costs, and 18% taxes, though that exact mix shifts constantly depending on the market. When crude oil prices spike globally, that single component alone can swing to over 60% of your entire price, which is exactly why gas prices can jump overnight, even though absolutely nothing changed at your local station at all. So the next time that number on the sign jumps 20 cents in a single week, know exactly what actually happened. It wasn't the gas station. It wasn't a local decision. Somewhere on the other side of the planet, the price of crude oil moved, and less than a day later, it showed up on a sign at the corner of your street, 4 layers deep, with your local station and your state government being the smallest pieces of the whole equation. That's the complete journey of a gallon of gas, from thousands of feet underground, through a shared pipeline, into a tank buried beneath your feet, and finally into your car. If this helped you actually understand what you're paying for every time you fill up, go ahead and subscribe for more breakdowns of exactly where your money goes. Next, we can break down how your electric bill actually gets calculated, or how your grocery prices really get set before they hit the shelf. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.